What's up guys, Peter here from Reviews on Anything, and today we're doing an installation video. More specifically an installation of this Evoplus dashcam. Now you can probably tell already that this is a mirror, a rear view mirror to be precise, so this is an over the mirror style dashcam with the lens here on this side sticking out on one side of the mirror, filming through your windscreen. Now it can be a bit tricky to install a dashcam like this, so I'm going to take you through the whole process step by step and show you how it's done and how you make sure all the wires get tucked in nicely and install this in your car. So let's get it going. Alright, so let's see what you get in the box. First of all, we have the unit itself. That's pretty self-explanatory, I think. We got the micro SD storage card, 16 gigs, that's included, which is very nice. Obviously you need to put that in and then you can save your recordings. We got some rubber straps to attach it to your mirror. Then we have the rear view camera unit. And last but not least is the power cord that goes into your 12-volt socket. Now obviously this mirror is going to be installed on my existing rear view mirror. So let's get right into it and see how that's done. Alright, to make sure that you can actually see what I'm doing, I've zoomed it in firmly on the rear view camera. Because you don't really want to see me talking, you want to see how this is installed. So let's get to it. Here we have the unit, and there is some flexible hooks on the back that you hook the rubber straps into. First on the top, pull it tight, and the same thing on the other side. And then really all you do is just place it over your mirror. Make sure the hooks come out on the other side. And then you just pull the rubber strap. They're nice and flexible, so don't be afraid to pull. Pull it around and hook it in the bottom hook. Make sure it is locked in. Also on the other side. And that's it. Unit installed. It is actually that easy. There's nothing really more to it. You have to make sure that you adjust it slightly so the lens goes around, obviously. And that's really it. So you strap it on and that's it. Obviously you got to angle it in such a way that you now can see out of the back again. But that's a given. This is really all the installation that is required as far as the unit goes. Now we're going to get to the slightly trickier part though, and that is installing the wiring. Alright, so the next step is cabling. As you can see, the unit is hanging, so it's going to need some power. That's done with this mini USB to 12-volt plug, as I'm sure you're familiar with. You're not sacrificing your connection because there's still a USB outlet. That's actually quite a nice touch from Evoplus, so you can still charge your phone from it if you want to. It's going to be slightly tricky to do this, so make sure you take your time to do it right, because you can clearly just plug it in and have a wire hanging all over your dashboard, which is not very nice. It's supposed to be tucked away nicely in your roof lining and so on. Make sure you take a bit of time laying out the cabling first before you get going. I initially wanted to do it in the middle of my car. I have another socket there, but after laying it out roughly, I realized that wouldn't fit. So to save yourself a lot of time, do it that way. Lay it out roughly through your car first, so you know what's going to fit where and what isn't going to fit. This is again going to be slightly tricky because we're confined with space, but bear with me. We're going to make sure the cables are tucked away nicely and that the unit gets nice power. Alright, as you can see, my 12-volt socket is located here in the middle console. So the approach that I'm going to be taking is to run it along the footwell, down there, and up on the side, all along the pillar, and then along the roof lining, all the way here to the unit itself. It's not too difficult, but it's a bit of a fiddle, so let's go and see how it's done. Alright, so I'll roughly lay out the cable, measure it out. Like I know it's gonna go right here, then down here, and then down here. So that gives me a bit of an idea of the length of cable that I'm gonna use. Now I'm gonna start by plugging it in into the power socket. Right there. And then it's just a matter of tucking everything into the lining of your car. Now don't worry, you're not going to break anything. It's not a perfect seal or anything. There's always a little bit of room also for maintenance and so on. So don't worry about it. You pretty much just start stuffing the wire where it needs to go. You could use something like a butter knife or maybe a spoon even to get this done right. But you should be alright with just using your hands. Now, as you can see, I can tuck it away pretty much fully. You might need to push it in and out a little bit, but you know. Apply a bit of force. Make sure that nothing falls out. Oops, okay. And then you got it nicely tucked away over here. Alright, so that's done. As you can see, I got the wire tucked in very nicely along the liner. Then down the pillar, around here, around the outside, underneath the dashboard, around the footwell, and I got a little bit of extra cable that I stuffed in. This was quite handy, and then here is the plug in the end where it ends up. That is really all there is to it. Like I said, you're going to take a few minutes to do this properly. Maybe use the end of a spoon or a butter knife to stuff it in really well, but effectively you should be able to do it with your hands. Obviously it's not obligated to do it this way, you know, you can just have the wire running from here to there, but that's not very convenient and it doesn't look very nice. And this way it's not obtrusive at all, it doesn't get in the way, it's nicely out of sight, and it's much more practical because you don't have any loose wires laying around. Now all there's left for me to do is to plug this in and out, because my 12-volt sockets are actually permanently powered. So make sure you check if yours actually go on and off with your ignition. Mine are always on, so I have to physically remove this and put it back in. You know, but that's a small little thing. And obviously you can't blame Evoplus for that. Alright, so here we are with the rear camera unit. There's a few important things to cover here. I'm not going to fully lay it out for you, but it's the same process as with the front camera. You stuff everything into the headliner, under your seat, under the floorboards, and behind the back seats, and that's really all there is to it. But there's a few things that are important. First of all, this is the rear view unit, which you can tell is pretty tiny, but it's supposed to be mounted like this with the mounting bracket up. Otherwise your image will be upside down and you have to, you know, reverse it in your editing software or anything. This is the way it's supposed to be used. Then we have this bit of red cabling right here. This is used to hardwire the camera into your reversing lights if you want them to work and react with those. It's not strictly speaking necessary because the camera gets power from the front unit, so it also works without it, and it's a bit of a job to put it, to hardwire in that wire of your reversing lights. So if you're handy enough, you can do it yourself, obviously, otherwise you have to ask some kind of workshop to do it for you, but it's not strictly speaking necessary. Then there's the cable itself, which is nice and long, as you can see, and we got the end here that plugs into your front unit. Now obviously it's important that you plug this in order to get power and to get the data feed in. You get 2 video files if you install this, so you get an A for the front and a B for the rear that are actually timed together. So you can, if you use some kind of editing software, you can place them into each other. Now the process of installing this rear camera is exactly the same as the front. You locate the spot where you want it and you roughly lay out the wires to see if it fits. In my case, I had to slightly rearrange the camera position because I have a very large car, but you know, that's what the whole laying out is for. Once it's done, you just make sure you run the cable under your seats, under your floorboards, maybe behind the back seats and so on, and then again the same spot along the roof lining and the pillar to make the cable end at the front unit and to plug it in there. And that's really all there is to it. That's the installation. You have to obviously go into the menu and the setup of the camera in order to set your preferences, if you want the lane guidance, the parking warning, the G-sensor sensitivity and so on. But that's, you know, pretty self-explanatory, just going through the menu and setting it up the way you want it. And then it's pretty much fire and forget. The camera does its job and hopefully you'll never use it. But when you do, you pop out the memory card, you plug it into your computer with the included USB adapter, and you have the images right there for you. So that was a quick installation guide almost, just to show you how it's generally done. Hope you guys found it helpful and enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers! What's up guys, Peter here from Reviews on Anything, and today we're installing the rear camera unit of the Evoplus dashcam set. This is the front unit. This goes over your rear view mirror with the camera here on the front, as you can see. This unit functions by itself, so you don't need the rear view camera for this to work. But if you also want to have some context and a view out back, then you're going to need this little guy over here. As you can see, it's not plugged in at the moment because we are using the extended length cable here. Obviously the dashcam comes as a kit with a normal cable in it, but my car was too big, so Evoplus was so kind to send me the extended cabling. Now we're going to plug it in right here, and then we are going to run the wiring through the car. This is where it plugs into the front unit. As you can see there's a little plug up here, goes into, and all is well. And obviously the trick is going to be to route the cabling in such a way that it's not, you know, a giant piece of wire running through your car, but actually to stow it away nicely so you don't see it. Two more things you're going to need. Obviously when you want to attach the camera to your rear windshield, then you're going to need this. This goes obviously here on the bottom. You get a bunch of screws with it as well if you want to screw it into your upholstery, but if you want to stick it to your window, then this piece of sticky tape will do. And a little unusual, but this is a butter knife, or actually this is the knife for my little kid. You're going to use this to pry away some of the upholstery and to make sure that you can get the cabling into all the nooks and crannies properly. So that's what you need. You're also going to need a bit of patience because it's a bit of a process, but I'm going to walk you through it step by step, and we're going to see how that goes. Alright, so first things first, I've plugged it right into the connector, as you can see. There's two wires. There's the black wire that is actually the main wire that goes to the front unit, and then we have the red wire here with sort of an open end. You can plug the red wire, you can connect that to your reversing light wires if you want to. That way the LEDs here on the camera will light up when you're reversing, when you put the car in reverse. That's not strictly speaking necessary though, it still functions even without the wire, but if you want the LEDs to work, then that's what you have to do. Now you have to install it with the hinge here up, so that actually makes it nice and easy, so we can hang it right here and it'll sit right there until we're done. Now obviously you can see that my boot is open, and you're going to have to accommodate for a bit of extra wiring to make sure that your boot can still open and close. You don't want to rip off your camera as soon as you open your boot. Now another thing to note is that you don't really have to be super careful with things like the rubber weather stripping and your panels. I mean, obviously, you know, you don't have to force anything and break anything, but there's quite a few panel gaps and nooks and crannies that you can utilize. Now as you can see, I got started here by folding the wire around under the weather stripping here and going into the first panel down here. And obviously this is also where you start using the little knife, because obviously it's a lot thinner than your finger, so you can use that to put it in there nice and tight. Now down here it's going into the first panel into the cabin. So let's switch to the GoPro and go into the cabin and see how we work it in and make sure that the wires are not visible. Alright, with the GoPro in the car, this is really the way to do it. You lay out the cabling sort of roughly at the edges of the panel, and then you use your little knife to slowly stuff it inside and to make it disappear. As you can see, there's plenty of room in there, and that will actually go all the way here, along this bit of panel, all the way up there. Now the same thing goes up here. You see, roughly lay out the cabling, and then you can use your knife to stuff it in between. There you go, see, plenty of space to make that happen. And as long as you take a bit of time and are a bit careful, no problem. Now in my car it's hard to put it actually in this little bit, so you might want to use a little sticker or a cable clip or something to attach it over there, but that should not be an issue. Now as soon as you get here, the easy way to go is to route it along this panel and then put it into the weather stripping right here. As you can see, this folds out, so you can run the wire all the way here, all the way there, and end up all the way in the front, which is where you want to go, because you want to go along the front window and then plug it into the front unit. So that's just a matter of starting here and then just being careful putting it under the rubber along this panel, same process really, and then you end up right over there. And here we are. Now I've left this bit exposed. Obviously you're going to tuck this away neatly. You can see that the cable has come down here from the rubber and has now gone behind this panel right here. Once you're done with the complete installation and all the wires are tucked away, obviously you're gonna stuff this back in where it belongs. Now the next step is that we go up here and then we go back here into the headliner the same way pretty much we did with the installation of the power for the front unit. Once you go along here though, you end up at the rear view mirror, obviously, with the front unit still being out back. Then it's just a matter of lining it up and plugging it in, and you're really good to go. Now you could go with some cable clips or with some stickers to, you know, fully tuck it away around your mirror, but it's not strictly speaking necessary as long as you're fine with the end result. But for neatness, you might even want to run it right there along the electricity for the rear view mirror. So that's really a short and easy view and a quick and easy way to install the wiring for your rear unit. Now you might be wondering why you would want to install this rear view unit in the first place. It's quite a bit of work, and the camera is not as good as the one on the front unit. It's a matter of context. The front unit is really there to provide evidence in case of an incident. The rear unit is there to provide context. If somebody's coming fast from behind, something's happening behind you that affects whatever is happening in front of you, the rear view unit is really to provide context to the images of the front unit. It does take a bit of time, yes, but if you take 15-20 minutes to do it properly, it's a one-time job that you never have to think about anymore. And when you do it properly, the wires are hardly visible at all, except for the wires around the mirror maybe. But then you have sort of an extra backup, an extra bit of information that you can use in case of an accident. Hopefully that'll never happen, of course, but that's why you have the dash cam to begin with. So this was a quick and easy look at how to install the rear view unit of the Evoplus dash cam. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll check you in the next one. Cheers!